So going on to our second topic, because we're in the theme of nostalgia. So movies, and there's a big one that is being filmed and is coming out later this year. I am super excited. It is the movie series, the franchise that started my boxing career, my inspiration, and it's Creed 3. So apparently it's under lock and key as far as what is the plot line, what's going to happen. Creed 3, I'm really, really jazzed for it. Will, how did you enjoy Creed 1 and Creed 2?
Listen, I enjoy that because, look, I'm an OG guy too, right? So I'm a original Rocky guy, and like when I was growing up, and I won't date myself as to how old I am, but
we're brothers from different mothers, you and I. Absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely.
So listen, my biggest days were when Rocky, not Rocky 1. I'm talking more Rocky 3, 4, right? I love those movies. And those are the original Creed, the original Mr. T, Drago. Those were awesome movies. And actually, I was never sold, and I'll be honest with you. When these sequels came out, like over the last few years, I was like, nah. I think they're just trying to milk the whole Rocky genre. I did not go see it. I was just like,
me too.
And then I think I must have been on a plane where I saw the thing for free. Like I was just like, okay, let me look at this. I got like 2 hours to kill. And I was like, this is actually a good movie, man. Like Creed and Creed 2. Michael B. Jordan, like that guy was amazing. That guy was ripped. I thought the movie was excellent. And again, I've always been a boxing fan. And I know we could kind of segue a little bit too. I've never been I'm getting into UFC. I'm getting into mixed martial arts. I think, again, I didn't pay it the kind of respect when the thing first came out, because I've been a traditional, the boxing skill set. You took boxing lessons. I've taken boxing lessons in terms of, just the mentality of being a boxer. It's called
boxing training. When you're at that level, it's called boxing training, my friend. Yeah,
it is. And when you get the idea of just the art form of boxing and the defensive style of boxing, and then you start going back and looking at the old fighters, right? You go back and you look at obviously a Muhammad Ali versus a Tyson, and you see the different styles. I love boxing, and frankly, these last Creed movies were excellent boxing movies. They were excellent boxing movies. So look, I'm looking forward to this new one that's coming out. I don't know who's playing. Who do you know who's playing?
So I did my research. So they're still not going there as far as telling us that it's going to be the Mr. T movie, and though we all feel it in our hearts.
Yeah, it's got to be, eh?
It's got to be. It's got to be. Please, I'm praying to the Creed gods. Please bring me Mr. T. Like Mr. T revolutionized my life. Like I was like this 7-year-old, 8-year-old, little Jewish boy with my Jewish.
Were you watching A-Team? Were you watching A-Team?
I started off. I was A-Team, yes, but my poster on my wall was Mr. T with the gold chains. Yeah. And I looked at that poster every morning. And when I was like in grade 3, in all seriousness, they said, what do you want to be when you grow up, Jonathan? You want to be a doctor, lawyer? I want to be Mr. T. That's what and you know what? I did. So I love Mr. T. And I loved A-Team. I loved Rocky, watching him, Clubber Lang. I always wanted to be Clubber Lang. When I was doing my boxing training, I go to my trainer. I was watching some Clubber Lang highlights and goosh, goosh, goosh. And he says to me, stop watching that. That's not good technique. I go, but he almost took off Rocky's head. I love that stuff. I love it, love it, love it. So they got to bring Mr. T back. So Jonathan Majors, that is the confirmed actor that is going to be a cross from Michael B. Jordan. And go put the side-by-side silhouette with him, Mr. T. It's gonna be, come on. It only makes sense, please. And Mr. T has come out and said, I don't know if I'm feeling it. I don't know if I should be. I don't want to do this. I'm not sure.
Typical pre-promotion stuff there.
They're being all coy about it. So finally enough, I also did not watch the Creed movies. I'm a purist. I'm all about Clubber Lang and Drago. Don't be talking about no Creed and all this. And I was on a flight to LA. Had a lot of time on my hands. So I'm like, all right, I'll watch Creed. True story. I will admit this now on the air for the millions of listening to this. I cried during both Creeds. I swear, I had tears running down my eyes. And when I got to LA that first afternoon, I ran to the boxing store. I bought a pair of gloves because I didn't bring any with me. And I went and signed up for training while I was in LA because I was so inspired by Creed. I'm like, this is awesome. I love it. Creed was amazing. I can watch that stuff all day long. Michael B. Jordan was amazing in the role.
Yeah.
He's stepping into the director chair for Creed 3.
I did not know that.
And Mr. Stallone is off to go hawk some Panerais and some merch. So he is very busy. So he cannot make the time to be in Creed 3, apparently, which is fine. So Rocky's gone off to the sunset. And then we're focusing on Creed. And they're saying, we don't want to take away from the Creed franchise. Yet you just did Drago. So you're going to have to do Mr. T, folks. I'm really sorry to break it to you.
I think so. I think you're right. And I hope, the younger generation kind of gets an appreciation for the boxing art form. Boxing is just kind of second fiddle now, right? There's no one good in the heavyweight division. There's no one really good in the middleweight division, and everybody's like, UFC is king now, right? UFC is king, and I won't lie, UFC is skilled, entertaining. But I wish there was more.
I will correct you. And Canelo's still like an art form to watch. Saul Canelo is a great boxer. Real fun to watch in my opinion. They're talking about another Triple G matchup with him. So there are guys out there clearly, but even Lomachenko lost. And the guys that we think are the greatest boxers right now, it's a weird spot, and it's because is there talent there? Are they promoting them right? People are not having that love of boxing the way UFC took over. And I feel like there's this niche right now because, even in wrestling right now, WWE, I think, is trying to flush it down the toilet. So you got all these wrestling fans, and these boxing fans, and they're full of testosterone, and they're looking for something to pay their money and watch, and they're all heading over to UFC. So I hope boxing capitalizes that and brings out bigger talent and everything. But I want to trace it back to Mr. T because, for that young generation, like, who's Mr. T? Who is Mr. T? Mr. T is an icon. He's a art form. He's one of the greatest actors, human beings on the face of the planet, and it's amazing. I invited him to come on The Chosen Life. Have not heard back yet. Still holding out hope. I remember when the Toys R Us opened up down the street from me back in the day, and that was the big thing back in 87. I'm outdating myself a little bit, but I was around 87 or so, maybe 86. And Mr. T was appearing at the opening of the Toys R Us. And I said to my dad, can I go meet Mr. T? And he's like, yeah, we'll go. And every hour I'm like, can we go? He's there. He's like, we'll go a little later. He never took me to see Mr. T. Sucks, I lost. Never got to meet Mr. T.
That sucks.
Before I leave this earth, I have to meet Mr. T. It's really, really important. So Mr. T, if you're listening, please, buddy, we need you on. It's very important because the new generation need to experience you. Will, do you know how he got the gold chains? Have you ever heard the story?
Oh, no.
So Mr. T, had the mohawk.
Yeah.
He was as badass as they come, right? Yeah. And he had all those gold chains. So Mr. T got discovered as a bouncer in Chicago, as the folklore goes.
Okay.
And every time he broke up a fight and a gold chain ripped, he put it on his neck. And apparently that's how Mr. T accumulated the gold chains.
Well, listen, if that's true, that is an awesome story. And I want to go back to something you just said there.
Yes.
And again, without dating myself, but please. Mr. T was the biggest thing in the 80s, man. Like I don't know what we could compare it to. You can compare it to Conor McGregor and some of these guys, but Mr. T was the global dude in the 80s. Like, I mean, there was not a bigger icon in the 80s than Mr. T. And that gold chain revolution, that guy revolutionized fashion when he rocked the gold chains, man. And back then was the early days of hip hop and rap, and everybody was coming out with the gold chain. Mr. T led the way in that whole style revolution. Too.
Yes.
But just in terms of a big man, a big dude, an athletic guy who was on TV and in movies, Mr. T had an iconic, and still does, persona. That was the biggest thing in the decade of the 80s, man. Like, people don't know, like you and I was a kid in the 80s too. He was the dude.
And the amazing thing of it, when you think back now, because look at now, when you have these heroes and they're rapping and everything else, they're talking about drug use and guns and saying derogatory terms to cultures and genders, and there's negativity and hate. You never heard one word like that out of Mr. T's mouth. He made it very clear. I don't smoke. I don't drink. I don't use drugs. Stay in school. Get an education. He looked so badass with his mohawk. He was such a tough exterior. In A-Team, this TV show, he was like pummeling guys. In Rocky, as Clubber Lang, he was pummeling guys. But it was soft-spoken. Everywhere he went and spoke, he always spoke positive messages. He was a positive role model. He was part of the Reagan administration in the U.S. at the time, the president of the United States, as far as education and bringing positivity. And the world needs more Mr. T's now. Somebody that does reach out to the younger generation, is a cool figure, but spreads good messages, wholesome messages. We need that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And I think you bang on. He was, and also as an African-American in the 80s doing this.
Yes.
Anti-drugs, no swearing, wholesome actor. Yeah, that was again, there was nobody else in the 80s doing that stuff. And unfortunately, I don't think there's anybody out there now that's really iconic like that.
So that's where I'm thinking, if we can bring him on, Creed, and spread the Mr. T message and the way,
I'm hoping you get this guy, man. This will be the blow up podcast for you. That would be awesome.
I'll tell you, Buff Bagwell's already blown up. He's a really well-known wrestler and a great guy. Actually, he's become a really good friend to me, and seeing what he's doing. We are talking to a few people. We do have some people lined up that I can't talk about yet, but there are some pretty big wigs that are headed up the food chain. So we got a lot of scheduling going on. So you got to stay tuned. You will be shocked and surprised and amazed as to who's coming, because you never know who we're going to pull out here on The Chosen Life. Thank you for enjoying today's episode of The Chosen Life podcast. Go ahead and hit the subscription button below and the notification bell to catch all of our great shows. And remember to contact the Chosen Lawyers when you are ready for your next real estate and commercial transaction. Go to kormans.ca.